And complaining are very different. And we find that the masters of marriage complain. So, you know, I can say to my wife, you know, all through dinner you talked about your day. You never asked me anything about my day. I'm very upset about that. You know, you didn't ask me anything about my day, and it really hurts my feelings. That's a complaint, right? Criticism is now suggesting that the problem shows that there's a deficit or a defect in my wife's character or personality. So now I can say, to turn the complaint into a criticism, I can say, what is wrong with you? You know, what kind of a person would do that? You're so selfish, you see? And now I'm suggesting that this complaint that I have is just the tip of the iceberg, and underneath is really her defective personality. And that's a criticism. So,
and often, like, people say, you always this and you always.
Yeah, if you say you always or you never listen to me, you always talk about yourself, then I'm suggesting her whole personality is like this. It's not just I'm upset about this conversation we had. I'm saying she's like this entirely. So we see, for example, during the discussion of the finances, that your heart rate goes up to 101 beats a minute during that. It doesn't do that in the baseline. Once your heart rate gets above 100 beats a minute, interestingly enough, you start secreting adrenaline. You know, your adrenal glands are secreting adrenaline, and your heart rate is not only beating faster, it's contracting harder. You know, and then you can't listen very well. You know, and we see you wanting to leave, emotionally wanting to leave. You know, so you know, and you can see that on your face, and you know, and you know, a lot of tension. And I think at that point you start reading him well and really making a lot of repair attempts and, you know, fixing it, you know, making it okay. But it kind of leaves you out in the cold because you're not really getting your issue dealt with. You know, so the way people fall out of love is, you know, instead of having admiration and respect and receiving affection, they get coldness and they get disrespect and they get contempt and criticism. So they've replaced this really wonderful culture of appreciation and admiration with a culture of criticism. And it's a very sad thing because the critic usually thinks that he or she is trying to be very constructive and very helpful in pointing out other people's mistakes, and hopes that they'll say, thank you so much for pointing out all my mistakes. You're such an insightful person, you know, and I love you. I just, you know, I want to improve and be a better human being, just the way you want me to. But actually, criticism and contempt has the opposite effect. It's really sulfuric acid for love. It makes people want to avoid the contemptuous person and really move away from them. And, you know, and really love erodes in that situation. So people don't just fall out of love like that. It's really a process that's very predictable. That's what our data show, that we can predict the whole process very well. So one of the things we look at is how much room is there for influence, you know, between the two of you. You know, and we look at a married couple. We look at how much emotional inertia is there. You know, like sometimes people are just sort of like a freight train, you know, with their issue. Or, you know, you might be a freight train, you know, with your issue. You might be the freight train going away, you know, receding, you know, and you're really defensive, you're really critical, and you're really defensive. Well, you guys weren't like that at all. You know, you had very low emotional inertia. So there was a lot of room to influence each other. There was a lot of room for both of you to be affected by one another. And that's a real strength. And then the marital status inventory you filled out, you know, shows that you're well below cutoffs for divorce potential. So divorce, you know, doesn't seem like it's in the cards for you. I hate to tell you this. You know, yeah. We find that most marital problems never get solved. 69% of marital conflicts, when we look at them 4 years later, they're still fighting about the same things in the same way. Most of those issues really are about differences in their personality. And they're fighting like this a lot of times, and they're hurting each other, you know. These gridlock conflicts like that, usually inside the conflict, inside each person's position, if you make the marriage safe enough, there's a dream within that position, and there's a life dream. And that life dream is very central to each of the people. And so you can't really know what it's about. It could be about, you know, freedom. It could be about connection and love. It could be about what it means to be a Gottman or a Johnson, or, you know, one of the most important things in marriage is really finding a way to honor both people's dreams. And I mean, it's a very simple thing to say, but it's not an easy thing to do.